So I guess moving on to the talk and when to start, it's probably one of the more common questions that we get asked by parents and carers. When do I start to have this conversation with my young person? And our response is it's never too early to start talking to your young person about self-esteem and healthy relationships, and they're the building blocks of sexuality, yeah? So I talk to my 5 and 3-year-olds about self-esteem and relationships. I'm positively role modelling that, I hope, to my young people. Anatomy from birth, it's a penis and it's a vagina. Okay, it's not a fairy or a hamburger or a willy or a doodle. It's cute to have all those names, but at the end of the day, anatomically, it's a penis and a vagina. That becomes very important if, hopefully never, but if a young person, say, experiences sexual abuse. It's very important from a medical or clinical point of view that a young person can accurately describe which anatomical part of their body has been touched. So it's little things that make a really big difference when it comes to age-appropriate messaging with young people. And that's why the Talk Soon, Talk Often resource is really good, because it does have those age-appropriate messaging throughout the book, yeah? I think we also need to identify that young people these days are going through puberty at a much younger age than in previous generations, particularly young women. I know that when I was going through puberty, sort of 13 to 15 was a fairly average age that a young woman would start menstruating. We now have young, and I still call them girls, but they're turning into young women around the age of 8 who are menstruating. So their bodies are going through puberty at an earlier age, therefore the hormones and the chemicals of the brain are all kicking in and setting into overdrive. So it is likely that they're going to come to you curious and asking questions at a younger age than previously. I know back in my time at school, sex ed was something cool that we did with like little egg babies in year 6. A lot of the primary schools now are moving personal development right up into years 3 and 4 so that they're getting the information to those young people before menstruation and puberty starts to kick in. I think having the talk, as I mentioned before, is so much about that honesty, you know, not oversharing your own information or experiences, but being honest with the young person, and particularly being honest if you don't have the answers to the questions that they're asking. There's lots of places that you can go to get accurate information. And it's a really good role modelling experience as well to say to that young person, hey, I don't know the answer, but that's a great question. Why don't we find out that information together? Jump on the computer, jump online with that young person sitting next to you. You're role modelling how they can find out that information for themselves in future. Call the sexual health information line, ask them a question, get the response from the educated nurse on the end of the line. You're empowering the young person to next time go, oh, I saw how that worker did that, or I saw how my mum or my dad or my carer did that. I can do that for myself next time. It's a really empowering experience to have with young people, and you're getting the answer to the question too. You're learning together. You're having a shared learning experience, which is so important. As I mentioned before, it came up here about it's not the lecture. It should be lots of individual conversations, and I say have them when the moment feels right, when things arise. It's not like every Tuesday night we're in the car, girls, we're going to sit down and have a conversation. It worked somehow, I'm not sure how. But actually car conversations work, and walking with somebody works. With them standing beside you, because it breaks down that awkwardness of the face-to-face. So think about young people and what's going to make the environment more comfortable for them in terms of having the conversation. Hey, do you want to go for a walk? Let's have a chat. Like, hey, did you see Home and Away is a really good resource. Did you see Home and Away last night? Did you see that relationship? What do you think about that? Home and Away is great because there's always a drama on Home and Away when it comes to couples and love, and they've thrown out lots of interesting topics over the years. So using Home and Away, just basically keeping abreast of the media and what young people are interested in. Yeah, it is optional, it is. But you know, songs, music lyrics, movies, even books, what are young people into? Where are they getting their messages from? If you can find something relatable with them, it's going to make that conversation a whole lot easier. And that's what I talk about when I talk about teachable moments. Okay, so a teachable moment would be, for example, if a sex scene came up on a movie and you're watching two people negotiate, or not, more likely, what's going to happen in that sexual situation. So we do often talk about, you know, the media movies, etc., being a source of information for young people. But when was the last time you watched a movie where there was a sex scene and the couple actually negotiated consent? Nah? Negotiated condom use, contraception? Nah. So when you do get the odd movie, like 50 Shades of Grey is probably about the closest that we've come to in recent years, and there is a moment of the couple having a conversation around consent or around condom use, it's a pausable, teachable moment. Did you see that happen? Did you see how those two people just negotiated that? They're respecting each other, they're going to look after each other's safety and well-being. That's what I would like your relationships to look like. Play. So it's looking for those teachable moments. It's not making it that lecture that's going to be uncomfortable, not just for the young person, but probably also for you as well. I think if you go into those moments in lecture mode, it's just like the word vomit. Like, I know that I've got to talk to you about this, 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 and this, and you're like, bleh, there it is. And the young person probably leaves with 1,000 questions and may not feel like they can come back and ask because it was quite clear that, we're having this conversation now and let's never talk about it again. Like, it's done now. We don't have to talk about that anymore. But you do, okay? And be prepared to answer those questions, as I said. And it's not about having all of the answers to those questions either, because none of us can know everything. But it is about being honest and finding out that information together and having that empowered shared learning experience. So I'm going to move now into just talking briefly about a few topics that have come up, especially from parents and carers, but I think as workers you'll also identify that these next two topics are probably the more difficult topics that are coming up for young people at the moment in terms of what's happening for them, and where parents and carers or workers are a bit like, this is a little bit of a grey area. I'm not too sure how I move forward with this.